ever noticed that when you look back on your life, what seemed to be the greatest setback or even disaster, more often than not, turned out to be either an incredible learning experience or even a blessing? And also, what seemed to be the greatest blessing sometimes turned out to be, well, not such a blessing after all. Knowing that, I believe we might as well love what is in the moment. Hi, I'm Deborah Poneman, founder of Yes to Success Seminars, where we offer knowledge and tools for you to live your ultimate life, ageless, anti-aging for your brain, your body, and your future, and the Awake Method, because it is time for all of us to wake up. Now, the person who helped me internalize this concept of loving what is was the great teacher Byron Katie. Her body of knowledge, called The Work, is based on the realization she had when she had an awakening experience. And that is this: when she believed that something should be different than it was, she suffered. For example, when she thought things like, my husband should be nicer to me, or my children should respect me. And the reality is, he isn't, and they don't, she suffered. And that when she didn't believe those thoughts, when she didn't believe that anything should be any different than exactly as it was, she found peace. And she had her awakening when she realized that what had been causing her deep depression was not the world around her, but her belief that the world around her should be different than it was. When she had her awakening, she saw that there really are no mistakes in the universe. Katie says that through the lens of her own self inquiry, she found true peace. She believes that our attempt to find happiness is backwards. Instead of hopelessly trying to change the world and the people in it to match our thoughts about how it or they should be, we can instead question our thoughts. And by loving reality exactly as it is, we can experience freedom and the end of our own suffering. One way her work has always helped me through the tough times in my life is by simply asking the question she taught me to ask, and that is, how do you know this is supposed to be exactly the way it is? And the answer is, because it is. If you argue with reality, you'll always lose, but only 100% of the time. He shouldn't have lost that election. How do you know he should have? Because he did. If he shouldn't have, he wouldn't have. She shouldn't have died. How do we know she should have died? Because she did. So when something is a very painful experience in my life, I simply ask myself, how do I know this is supposed to be exactly the way it is? Because it is. If it were supposed to be another way, it would have been that way. It makes life a lot easier if you can really get this one. It has helped me so much in little or big ways. Like, for example, when my kids were young and Deanna wasn't invited to a party, or Daniel missed the winning basketball shot, that was heartbreaking to me. I know these are first world problems, but I would ask myself, how do I know it was supposed to happen exactly the way it did? Because it did. And the truth is that I don't know the ripple effect of another team winning and the lives that would change. And although, again, my kids' problems are clearly first world problems, Katie's work has helped me to see the suffering on our planet through a different lens. I love the story that Katie tells of her own awakening experience, where many years ago, her family put her into a halfway house after she had just laid in bed for years, being intolerably abusive to all of them. The pattern of being a rageaholic continued in the halfway house, so they put her in solitary confinement. And one day, while she was busy raging, a cockroach walked across her foot, and she went into a state of enlightenment, seeing the perfection of all that is. No more rage, no more combativeness, just peacefully living her life and loving exactly what is. I also love the anecdote she tells that when people got word, the word got out that there was this enlightened woman who lived in Barstow. People she didn't even know started showing up at her door to meet her, and she would open the door and they would say, Namaste, Namaste. And she would say, absolutely. You are absolutely right. Well, she thought they were saying, no mistakes, no mistakes. So once you accept that we live in a benevolent universe and you realize the utter perfection of creation and that everything is in divine order, which I saw in my with my own eyes during a near death experience, which I think I've shared with you enough times, so I won't share it again, but life just becomes so much easier. I know we are living in interesting times and loving what is might be a little more challenging than usual, but this doesn't mean we become passive and don't take action, but you will know more easily how to face each obstacle if you don't just continually push against it. You might not know how to overcome that obstacle, but the intelligence who created the universe and the obstacle in the first place does. And you can only do what you can do and then give the obstacle over to that intelligence and surrender. And light will shine on you and on that situation exactly when it's supposed to. I think that this is a story that somebody needs to hear right now. I wasn't going to include it, but it just popped in my mind. And it's the story about a man saying to God, I all I want to do is serve you. All I want to do is do something that's going to make a difference. Please tell me what I should do. And God said to the man, go and push a rock. And the man was like, okay, but being an A-type personality, he found the biggest boulder that he could possibly find, and he started pushing it. And he pushed it and he pushed it because he had committed to that big boulder, and it didn't move. And he pushed it some more, and he pushed it for hours, and then he pushed it for days, and the days turned into weeks. And finally, he gave up. And when God saw that he gave up, God said to the man, why did you give up? And he said, because nothing happened. And the man said, nothing happened. You showed so much courage in continuing to push the rock in order to serve me. When it was freezing out and boiling out and raining out, you still continued to push that rock. And then people saw your persistence and said, that is a great man. And you developed muscles and you developed inner and outer strength. And then the man said, but it didn't move. And God said, I didn't tell you to move it. I told you to push it. I'll move it when I'm ready. Finally, one more thing I want to share with you. The Reverend Dr. Barbara King, now deceased, who was a dear friend of mine and the minister of the Unity Church in Atlanta, in her book, Transform Your Life, she said this. I don't have it memorized. She said, this sense of all rightness may not come the first time we seek it, or even the second. We may feel as though our prayers are not being heard. We may wonder if we're praying correctly, or even if prayer is the thing to do in this circumstance. At such times, it doesn't hurt to keep in mind the wisdom of our elders who understood and who were more patient than we seem to be with the workings of God. My grandmother, for instance, used to say about Jesus bringing grace into our lives. She used to say, he may not come when you want him to, but he will always come on time. And I'll give you one more quote before I end today. And I love this, and I have no idea who said it, but it goes like this. Don't require the universe to move more rapidly than it is. It is actually working perfectly, and it will prove that to you if you will give it a chance. So have a wonderful week, knowing that when you think that something should be different than it is, that is when you suffer. So for our own happiness and sanity, as hard as it is to accept, it's really best to ask, how do I know this is supposed to be exactly this way? And then answer yourself with the answer, because it is. Argue with reality, you'll always lose, but only 100% of the time. So give it a try. And if you really want to go for the gold, love what is. Oh, and push a couple rocks. Have a great week. Bye for now.